7 hours ago, I was asleep, fast asleep. Let's see what we've got. An update, player feedback response for the mechanical hearts. I don't know why they would do this. There was hardly anything ado with the mechanical hearts. I'm pretty sure this was the most perfect event and everyone was just happy with it and just, you know, chugging along with the jump quests. But let's see what they could possibly have to respond to. We've included Mechanical Hearts Season 1 and 3 starting quest names to clarify the coin reward requirement. Ooh, there's coin rewards. Alright. Hi, Maplers. We apologize for the recent Mechanical Hearts related issues, and we're aware of the discussion that our players have been having about Mechanical Hearts and other game and communication related demands. We are aware of what players are suggesting, and we're taking our players' demands very seriously. Good. This is something I talked about before, that I was hoping that GMS would take a page out of KMS's book and actually, instead of just saying that they're going to be more transparent and saying that they're going to listen more to player feedback, actually coming out with statements regularly, doing so, and going more in depth on what they're responding to, why they're responding to it, and what action they're taking and why. Because I think that's what the communication all comes down to, right? After thorough review, we decided to remove the daily monster drop coin cap for Mechanical Hearts with our April 8th maintenance. That should be in 2 days, so that's next Thursday. So players can enjoy the event in various ways. As in, you can just farm your way through it if you're really bad at jump quests. I think it's not too bad for one character to get 1 heart on a character in your account. That's because I'm pretty good at the jump quest after trying it hundreds of times. I don't think I was very good at it the first time. It took me a bunch of hours. But some people don't seem to improve at the same pace, I guess, is the most delicate way to say it. And it ends up being like a huge ordeal, effectively meaning that they don't have good direct access to the item at all. And it's just not fair that it should be gated behind your aptitude for jump quests. They increased the coin cap by a little bit. I understand why they had a coin cap at all. I don't understand 50. I don't understand 100. You could easily just make it like 500 a day or something, or like 300 a day or something. That makes it very accessible to everyone without having to go through so many dailies on so many days. But why they chose that number, I don't know, because they doubled it pretty much immediately and then they just remove it 3 days later or 4 days later. So just like with familiars, it seems like they kind of thought about it, but then realized that they didn't think about it enough at all and then just did something very differently right after. So I'll read the rest to see, before we criticize all of it just so early on. When Mechanical Hearts 3 was released last year, we aimed to lower the hurdle of the event compared to previous runs of Season 1 and 2. While providing more attractive rewards. However, you voiced that it is desirable to obtain coins through monster drops like it was in Season 1 and 2. So to reflect your feedback while still maintaining the balance of the content, we made it so that a certain amount of coins can be obtained through monster drops while allowing more coins to be obtained through completion of season missions compared to the previous runs of Mechanical Hearts. Is this true? Because I heard somewhere that Season 3 last year gave 1,200 coins and that this year it only gave 600. Was that not correct? Because I feel like even the storyline gave more. Was it last year or last time it was around? I don't know exactly when it was around. I feel like that went down too. That sounded right at least, but maybe that was incorrect. We also combined Season 1, 2, and 3 coin shops in hopes to provide more flexibility for you to play the content that you prefer. They even put an item that you need to complete Season 1 in the Season 3 shop, which is kind of confusing for people. We added a time limit to the daily obtainable monster drop coins because it's possible to enter investigation mode without completing the Season 3 missions, so some players might obtain too many coins in a very short period of time. And by too much, they don't mean you're not worthy, but they mean to maintain the internal balance of the thing. Now, if they said there's no coin cap, but you can only start doing coins once you complete at least, Season 1, 2, and 3, that's also a thing they could have done. But yeah, we apologize that we didn't inform you about the change properly, and we will put much effort on delivering the essential game information to our players. This, I think, is one of the most important things probably that's going to be in here. I don't know, there's a lot of text coming. is that if they're planning on changing something, I think that's fine. Balance changes, the access to things should change, you know, the exact details of the quest should change a little bit every time, just so that content creators like me can make new videos every single time, I guess. But also just to keep the game a little bit fresh. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but if you have a recurring event, but you're going to change the rules within the recurring event, I feel like you should announce those changes beforehand. Or name the event something slightly different. Name it like Mechanical Hearts Revamped or something, so that people know like, oh shit, something is going to be different. Not like, oh, Mechanical Hearts returns. So it's like, oh, okay, so it's just back. And then, by the way, here are all the things that changed once it's live, right? I think it's fine to update it, but just give us a warning, right? Give us a heads up. That's all. I think that's a very reasonable request. We will give out 1,000 Aspire commemorative coins during the April 8th maintenance to all players who have completed either Season 1 Mechanical Hearts Digital Horrors quest or Season 3 Mechanical Hearts 3 Returning to Aspire quest before this announcement to apologize for the change not being communicated properly. So before 7 hours ago. Okay. Well, so that's one character for me. 1,000? Oh, cool. Then I don't have to do anything anymore. Nice. Because then I can buy the Android and I can buy the Soul Bag. Nice. After we released the Mechanical Hearts event, we have been closely monitoring our community platforms and reviewing your feedback. Honestly, hang on. Before I move on here, I feel like, do we need to do the math to see? Because now people might be like, oh, I got 1,000 free coins. It might be the people who complained the hardest who are happier now because they have more coins than it would have had. They think they have more coins than it would have had without the hurdle being there, but they probably have less. So in retrospect, even considering the compensation, they probably gave less than if they enabled the whole system beforehand, but people feel better now because even though they got less, they got it without having to work for it. So that it might be like a win-win, because they had to give less to people, and, you know, like the Abused Housewives we are, we kind of like give them a pass afterwards and be like, oh, it's Nexon, what are you gonna do? But I guess we got some free coins out of it, so we kind of like forgive and forget. And then some people see it as a win because they got a bunch of coins for free. I don't know. Feels like kind of, I don't know, not sure yet how to think about that in total, but let's move on first. After releasing the Mechanical Hearts event, we've been closely monitoring our community platform, reviewing feedback. On the coin cap, we chose not to disclose. Again, I don't think this is nearly as much as a problem if they just said this a week before Wondered comes out. It's like, hey, by the way, Wondered is coming back, but the coin cap is going to be different, and here's why it's going to be different, and here is why we decided to do it. If they communicated that a week in advance, then they got a lot of negative feedback. They could have just said before it actually went live, like, okay, we're going live tomorrow, and we got a lot of feedback, and we decided to revert the coin cap, and it's going to be released full. And then from day one, the whole event could have gone on like it's going to go on now, and there would have been, it would have been only positive, because it was like, oh, Nexon was planning to nerf it, they listened to the customers, and they reverted it before it went live. Positive. Now it's like Nexon decided they were going to do something different. They put it live different, and then we have to wait, and then they had to wait for, we had to complain a bunch. 1 week into the event, we lose like a week of the whole event for some people, and then they're going to revert it and give some compensation, and now it's a whole shit show, and now it's like, oh, is it too late now to start on other characters because we're already a week into the event now? And then you have a whole shit show that you have to, and now the whole event is going to be remembered as that shit show Mechanical Hearts event that went nowhere, right? So if you just pool this whole, this is my general advice to Nexon, is if you just pool this whole week of bad shit instead of the first week of the event, the week before a big event like this, you can avoid so much, so much stuff. Not just player harm and player discomfort and stuff, but also you guys' discomfort, because you won't have to do compensation stuff. You just, yeah, exactly. You're just proactive with this instead of reactive. And this will, if you do this in general for like big events that you know a lot of people are looking forward to, it will save everyone so much trouble. Because, yeah, now you have to think about, do we get an extension because it's a week of problems, and the compensation, and how are you going to implement the compensation, and blah, 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 blah. Why not just have this whole process before the event comes out? It alleviates so many issues. But yeah, what do I know? I've only played this game for like 28,000 hours, so, you know, maybe Maybe I don't have enough insight in like past events. Blah blah blah. CoinCap chose not to disclose that the event was under review because we were still in the reviewing process and we thought it was too early to provide our players with the information. So this is a whole lot of you problem. This is a whole lot of planning problem on your part. You need to be ready and have the plans finalized for an event at least like a week or two before the event is actually going to go live. If you're doing this the day of, you're literally that high school student who's like finishing his homework as the teacher is like picking it up in class. You would hope, as like a professional company, you would have that stuff done just a little tad. You know, they have like some kind of planning release schedule. You know, we understand our internal processes may make you frustrated since there is no way for you to know at all if we're listening to you or not. We sincerely apologize for that. We're trying to improve our overall communication with you as one of our goals in 2021. Should have been a goal of 2013 when you started, but. Oh no, 2003 is when it started. Oh god, this game's old. So if you're reviewing the ways to improve our communication method, and we'll let you know once our plan is finalized. Here are our responses to things that players are suggesting, taken from our currently popular posts from MapleStory Reddit. Oh god, they read the Reddit, guys. Hey, quick note by the way, if you're on the MapleStory Reddit, anyone want any Dark Lords of Darkness? Maybe make some threads about that. Just a suggestion. Because they do read that and they do take player feedback into account. So if you guys want dark totems that we haven't had in a year and a half or so, maybe throw up some threads about that. Just an idea. Improve transparency with the software to check the odds. A development project to set up a real monitoring system. Oh, this is like in connection to the KMS stuff, right? For the in-game probabilities, yeah. Able to present a completed version to you. We apologize again for not giving you any updates about it, and we'll make sure that you know. I don't fault them at all for not giving any updates about the system because KMS just has to finish it first. Once KMS has it, GMS can roll it out. I think most of us who are aware of like the cycle of everything having to be programmed through KMS and just handed down to be translated by GMS will not fault GMS for this feature not being updated yet. Like it'll come when it comes, when KMS is ready with it. Constant communication with the player base and explanation for the changes. We're currently hiring an additional community manager to improve our visibility and presence in the community. Right, that is true. And for now, Ghibli is doing all of that by herself. And the game is a lot bigger than it was a year ago, or definitely than it was 2 years ago. So I think they definitely do need a second community manager. We also brainstorm better ways to comment and explain about game changes that players need to be aware of, other than the memo letter, in order to improve communication. Okay, maybe they can promote that GM that had such a great reply to that to that question in the on the subreddit. You guys remember that one? Maybe he could be promoted. He says it seems like he would be great with the community. We will start a discussion with the relevant internal teams to identify a better method of addressing and updating players about reported issues. Okay. Customer service improvements and false bans. Reducing farmer activity has been one of our most important tasks since February of last year in order to manage a stable game environment and keep the value of your important game assets from being fluctuated by the farmers. Now, this is the main reason why I don't play non-reboot, is because I know that they can't do that properly. Just look at the ratio of the Maple points to Mezzo rates in the Mezzo market. It's all over the place, and it's directly causated by the presence of farmers and the sale of Mezzos through illegal websites. However, I did hear that one of the biggest sellers of like illegal sellers of assets in MapleStory was just taken completely offline like a month ago or a few months ago. So that's a small win, I guess. But you know, whenever you cut off one head, 3 more shit tickets place kind of thing. I think that's just gonna stay a perpetual problem. They'll just pop up somewhere else, but yeah. But they've been great with banning all of the, or most of the botters. I don't know if you guys remember, when was this? Was it like 3 months ago? 2 months ago? Up to 2 months ago? Like around the winter, suddenly there were so many botters. Like every single map was taken by a botting Kana. In Lecheline, in Arcana, even in Morass. Like all of the maps were basically taken. And then from one day to the next, I think they banned like 18,000 accounts or something. So it's not that I don't appreciate their efforts, but how does it get so far before you come up with like a more radical change and then suddenly get rid of all of them? I feel like it should have never gotten that far in the first place. Like, if there's always like a few botters here and there, I guess I don't really care. But if we go from having 0 to having 95% of the maps full with them, I hate that fluctuation way more. Because then it's like, oh, I guess I can't train it all this month until it's fixed. Whether, if there's always like a few bots that kind of like slip through the cracks, that's understandable, and that doesn't impact my gameplay as much. But yeah, I don't know anything about the backend and how hard all that is and implementation of anti-botting features and all that. I don't know. But on that note as well, I think any reasonable person will also see that if you come up with some kind of system that bans like 18,000 people within a week, there's also going to be some false bans in there, like percentage-wise. That just has to happen, right? I talk about this a lot, but a lot of people seem to be really, really shocked when there's like a false ban and they're like, oh my god, a false ban. The system is broken. I can't believe they would ban someone. And it's like, bro, like if you try to build a system that tries to detect every botter, but no legit person, like the worst botter is always going to be doing things not as good as the best legit person. There's going to be some overlap in how they move, how they interact with the environment. There's always going to be some overlap. If you build a system where there's not a single false ban, that means the system is flawed and it's not taking nearly all of the bots, and too many bots are getting through the system. You need at least a few false positives because there has to be some overlap somewhere. And as long as you deal with those false bans in a timely manner and you have a good investigation system, then the whole system works, right? To imagine that there has to be like this perfect system that perfectly detects all the bots and nobody gets false ban ever, that system just can't exist realistically. Just can't happen. And I know that's what we want to have, but it's not realistic, right? So, to take it back here, we apologize for any false bans that have happened to the inconvenience they caused while we've been actively battling the farmers. We know this is not an excuse, but our security team and patrolling team are working very hard to improve our accuracy detecting farmers and only farmers. Ooh, farmers. Wait. I think they mean botters here because Nexon is like 80% farmers. So we maybe we need to readjust these terms. I think they mean... do they mean like specifically Chinese meso farmers? Or what do they mean? I don't think they mean farmers. They mean botters, I'm pretty sure. We will continue... I think in Korea, yeah. In Korea, do they call them farmers? Yeah, hashtag no farm, baby. That's why we never get caught. We'll continue to discuss with all relevant internal teams to see what else is needed to improve the process. All right, service quality and bug fix improvements. Excuse me. Too much OJ. And to improve the overall service quality further, we recently started collaborating and working closely with Nexon's QA group in Korea, because I don't know if GMS's QA group is more than one person. We apologize for recent critical bugs with the Haste and Mechanical Heart events. Haste. What was wrong with Haste again? Oh my god, my memory. I just move on so quickly. Oh right, the kill count resetting over and over. Yeah, that was a doozy. Where this cannot be excused by any means. We will. What was the last event that came out that actually worked properly? Fairy Bros? Oh yeah, I think Fairy Bros is actually... I think Fairy Bros actually functions. And the Petals event? Maple Cafe Keeper. The Flower Petal one? The Flower Petal one. Yeah, so this is also kind of shitty, right? Because there's a bunch of events that work fine, but they're always completely overshadowed. Well, bunch. There's multiple events that work fine, but they're overshadowed by all of these other failures. And you don't want this, right? You want a failure of an event to be kind of like an exception and to be able to remedy that failure with like, hey, but look at all of these other cool events that are all working properly. Not like, oh, all of these events are shitty, but look at this one event that's at least working maybe. And look at these compensation features that will, right? You want the overall, the Overton window of, so to speak, of opinion towards events to be positive with like a few outliers rather than negative with a few outliers. So I need to move that over. Speaking of Firebrewers, we didn't get 18 free days like KMS did. That's true. We did get a bunch of other stuff, even though nobody in the KMS... Okay, GMS did not complain about all of the odd stuff, okay? The fact that we got as much compensation as we did, that should hold you over for a long-ass time, alright? KMS actually boycotted the whole game, 60% of the players leaving and everything. GMS, like, 3 people left because they were already on their way out, okay? The fact that we even got compensation in the size that we did, you guys got way more than as a community we were supposed to be getting, alright? So... Not to say this makes up for everything, because we've been treated pretty shittily as well. But it was not response in kind to how much outrage there was. We got spoiled, yeah, for sure. Okay, we apologize for recent critical bugs. We're very going to be excused by any means. I mean, still trying. We will review our process thoroughly to reduce the critical issues in our service and to address them in a timely manner. Good. Concerns regarding items and events that are no longer released and have nerfed, such as badges, Maple Tour, Piggy Bank, totems, and Kishin Shokan skill. Oh my god, an actual response? Where that players are asking for these items to return or to be reverted, but as we mentioned through a previous memo, some of these items had been designed to be aligned with the status and balance of MapleStory at the time, and maintaining these certain past items sometimes becomes problematic as game balance and endgame content have changed. If you plan to make adjustments or if it becomes difficult for us to re-release an item as is due to these reasons, we will make sure to give you a detailed explanation and the developmental intentions. As we mentioned above, we will also listen to our players more and we'll come up with a plan of decision making. So there's like 2 responses to this. One is this is like, from a Nexon's point of view, this is like 100% legitimate, okay? The fact that you release something doesn't mean that you are now like eternally obligated to keep that in the game forever because the game changes. On the flip side, especially in the Western market, you know that players are insanely fucking greedy and self-centered and spoiled. So if you give them anything, immediately becomes internalized, immediately becomes like, I'm entitled to this. And if you do anything to remove from that later, then you're just stealing their shit. Because whatever they can get their hands on, boom, it goes up to 100%. This is my baseline now. And then anything you take away from that, now I'm not at full potential. Now you're impeding on my game process, right? So just to talk about like the Maple Tour, right? Maple Tour didn't exist at all, right? We just had a regular income. We were already progressing pretty quickly. And then it was like, oh, you can't like farm in Bye-Bye Station anymore, right? We were moving that area. That wasn't even necessary, but a lot of people relied on that, so they had a high level of standard of living, quote unquote, because they were making a lot of money. And then it's like, oh hey, we're opening up Maple Tour, and it's like, oh, I can use that to fill this gap, so I don't go from 100% to 50%, but I only go down to like 80% or whatever. You know, how much people were farming at that time. And then it's like, okay, we took a hit there, and then you reduce more, and you reduce the income, and it's like, oh my god, I'm going down and going down. That's totally like a in your head thing as a player, right? For me, I was relying on farming, I was relying on money, so I was here, and then I got Maple Tour, and I went up there. Okay, but this is still my baseline without Maple Tour. So Maple Tour is just a little bit extra. Maple Tour gets nerfed a little bit. Okay, I'm still higher than where I was. Like, I'm still above my baseline. Like, this is still a plus. But if you see your situation is only going down, you see everything in such a negative light as a player. So this is like why it's very hard to balance the game, okay? And a lot of people just see it as more equals better and less equals worse, because slower is worse and faster is better, right? But the problem is, there's a whole balance intended within the game of how quickly you move through it, how you progress through the game, how you move from one set of equips to another, how you get stronger, etc, etc, etc. And that's linked to what kind of items can they sell you, how long can they get you to play, how much money can you spend on the game, right? Because it's a business, it's a product that needs to generate revenue, and admittedly, it probably generates more than enough revenue as is, and it could probably warrant some more investment, because Nexon CEO is literally the richest guy in all of Korea. But with all that being said, there's still like an internal balance in the game, right? And that's why when I look at changes, I always look at, well, what is the intended balance change for the game of that change, and does that achieve that change or not? That's how I see if something is a good change or a bad change. It's not like, oh, you're getting more damage, therefore good. No, you're getting more damage because this character is struggling in a certain part of the game and is underperforming compared to other classes, and their progress is slower. Therefore, giving them more damage to that skill in that situation is good for the game because it makes them more in line with everyone and it alleviates them from a situation that they are weaker, right? That's how we look at the changes. Now, it's already very problematic, or difficult, I should say more, because the game gets balanced around KMS non-reboot, and we're in GMS reboot. And this is why we need someone to just look at the balance between the servers and not just copy everything over from KMS to GMS, and someone needs to be in between there and look at, okay, why is that coming to KMS? Why is it on my desk? Do we need it? If we don't need it, chuck it aside. If you need it partially, implement part of it. If you need it wholly, copy paste it over and implement it, right? We need someone to do that, to make that decision, and to get direct feedback from the player base. And other feedback then, number go down bad, number go up good, but more nuanced feedback. Of maybe someone who, you know, gives shit to both sides. Not thinking of anyone in particular, but just in general, there's like people who could, I think, make that distinction slightly more objectively, and then, yeah, maybe that could help the balance of the game a little bit. Okay. So they didn't specify anything specifically, right? They just lumped these things together as things that are no longer in the game. So people who are looking for a specific response on anything, you're just getting the general response to this. Oh, I muted the wrong thing. Cool. Now you guys heard that. Well, that's going to be in the video. Deal with it. I have a body. It has functions. You all do. Live with it. Class balancing and timely fix of broken skills. Development team aims to make impartial decisions based on numerical data, but it is true that there are aspects that are lacking when viewed with the perspective of players with various personal experiences. We strive to emphasize... Oh my god, I almost read a different word here. Emphasize the unique characteristics... watching too much Shingeki no Kyojin, dude. The unique characteristics of each class and provide a fun experience when playing each class. Don't you pepper point me. While also thinking about how we can release attractive new classes without harming the unique characteristic of each existing class. Honestly, I am... one of the things that I'm actually pretty impressed with Nexon is how they have 47 classes, and all of them are still this unique. Like, there's definitely some overlap in, like, levels of difficulty or where they shine, or if they're, you know, very bursty or not, or if they have somewhat, like, some similar skills. But we always look for similarities in that way because we're humans. We look at patterns, right? We're very good at pattern recognition. So there are some classes that we will relate to each other because of that. But with all of that said, there being 47 classes and them being this distinct from each other is actually quite impressive. And I think we have the fifth job to thank for that, because there's so much diversity and so much different, so many different ways that they're going. And I think that's also why they want to not make any more crossover classes like Xenon, because it kind of takes that diversity away, because it takes skills from other classes in and it puts them onto the same character. Now, you could argue that that connection of skills is still a new connection, but it's still the same skills that you're reusing. So, yeah, that, and it's the main thing is it's a balancing nightmare, right? Like classes like Xenon and Phantom are just balancing nightmares because they use skills from other classes, and the interactions are not inherently taken care of on the internal level, because they just look at the kit and how it interacts with the game, not so much with other kits of other classes on the same character. That's just not something that's just way harder to do, especially in a game that's so old with so much stuff going on. We will listen more carefully to your valuable feedback and review if it will be possible to proceed with more frequent class balances. Additionally, we will work to prevent any skill-related bugs during development, while swiftly addressing any skill bugs that do occur. We will work to prevent skill-related bugs during development. Yeah, I mean, I would hope so. What? Wait, am I reading this? We We will get rid of bugs during development. Yeah, I hope so. Isn't that the whole goal? And swiftly address bugs that do occur. I mean, they're probably specifically talking about non-KMS classes having issues for several months or years. But this seems pretty self-evident, but I guess we will work harder to prevent this, I guess? Like, you're gonna do more? Because I assume you were already doing this, right? You were doing this, right, Nexon? If you weren't, that would explain very many things. But please tell me you were already doing this. Please. Yeah, I think the class balance changes proceed with more frequent. I think in general, our class balance changes are already maybe too frequent. I like the direction that KMS is going, and so for the people who don't know, if you check my classes grid, where I grade all the classes, what I made there recently also is a column of like upcoming, KMS upcoming changes. So I basically take all of the job changes that KMS has already brought to their live servers, make a whole list of them, and then based on all of their changes, determine whether that's going to be a small buff, big buff, a neutral, a nerf, or a big nerf for GMS compared to where we are at now. Most classes don't really move up and down too much, but in the recent changes after Neo, there's some significant changes, which definitely adjust the balance just a little bit. And then as those things go live, they also change the ratings, of course, of all the classes and the stages. By the way, I'm still looking for endgame mobbing input, so please, in the description, please send me information in the forum, okay? And you can check for any update. And basically, there's a lot of small updates where there's like 1 or 2 skill changes and nothing changes too much. And then there's like one really big balance change like this, where it's like, whoa, like a lot of stuff going on. And I think if they do one of those big changes like every 3 months or something, like 4 times a year, that's already quite a lot. As like a general thing, I'm okay with that actually only being like twice a year. There being like a pretty big rebalance, and then some minor adjustments, of course, as is needed in between that. Because also that saves us from like constant, endless maintenances and uptimes and downtimes and fucking relog and downloads and all of that stuff. Because people just want to log in and play their mushroom game, dude. But also, you don't want to have to like relearn your class. But definitely, if there's some issues, some general balance issues, or some specific skill bugs, those have to be done incidentally, like immediately, and not just wait till the next big rebalance and just throw it in there. Yeah. So specifically for the non-KMS classes, where the whole process of like sending it to KMS, getting a fix from KMS, trickling it down to maybe GMS and then also maybe JMS, sorry, and also to GMS. That whole process probably needs to be streamlined a bit. But I do understand that the priority isn't as high for KMS because they've got all of their own stuff to deal with, of course. That's going to be for all the versions of the game. And then just a few like GMS interactions with non-KMS classes aren't as important for them. However, it makes, a lot of times, it makes just a few classes in GMS just unplayable for, for a day, for a week, for a month. Sometimes for some certain skills just can't be used for a year because we just have to wait for a fix, right? So I hope that those things go down for sure, and that especially lesser played classes won't feel like they're just completely being neglected. Yeah. We hope our responses above have cleared up some misunderstanding and answered questions you may have had. We are aware that some of our responses may not be as detailed or concrete as you would have hoped for, but we plan to come up with potential improvements by reviewing your feedback closely while providing updates on the progress. We aim to take a step towards the direction where we can make our players satisfied onward. Thank you for your support, and thank you, Anna. So this last part is kind of like a reach out to you guys, and I will reach out to you guys as well. So I'm doing my response to this live on stream with a bunch of people watching, and it'll go on YouTube, and people will respond, and maybe Nexon will actually see that response, probably, because I know some people who work at Nexon do watch my content, and it's not like, well, not in my live streams, well, some do, but like especially the YouTube stuff, and definitely the stuff that gets viewed. So my hope with this is, with the things that I highlighted and things that I mentioned, to further the dialogue and continue. And I'd be like, oh, this is enough, this is done, cool, they're doing their stuff. Also, not to say like, oh, the community just needs to start like boycotting the entire game or something. Like that's not a like good thing either. But we need to find like, you know, what does the community think is the most important? What can Nexon do as a company, and like how can that be brought together to, you know, move forward, right? Because Nexon wants to have a product that people want to play, and people want to have a product from a company that they can trust a bit more and that they can feel safe spending all their time on, right? So basically, as a call with this last paragraph, and for me to you right now, is just call out, right? Just speak out, basically, right? Just look at the things, read through this, or react to what I've been talking about, and be like, hey, these things I agree with you on, these things I disagree with you on, these things I agree with Nexon on, these things I completely disagree with Nexon on, and further the conversation. Like, these things need to be addressed more. This part was good. Nexon did this well, so they know, like, okay, we checked that box, like, this is good. We can move on to things that are more specific, right? So that's why I do mention things like Dark Lords of Darkness, for example, because Nexon does listen to player feedback. As much as you guys think that they don't, they just prove that they did, right? Because they were planning on nerfing the corn cap thing for Wandroid, and then they did, and then you guys yelled out, they increased it a little bit, you guys kept yelling, and now they're removing it completely, right? So they are listening to you guys. They want to keep you as players. Recognize your power as a player base if you are structured, constructive, and organized, right? So do these things, right? Don't just yell and shout into the ether, right, about like, oh my god, Nexon trash company, this is horrible, and then keep playing the game and spend $400 next Wednesday rolls around on a cash up, right? Because that is not making your voice being heard. That's sending mixed signals to Nexon, and reasonably, they don't know what to do with that. They'll just ignore you, and they probably should, right? Because you're not consistent in anything there. So if you do really feel that there's a big problem, think about it, right? Make specific addresses to that. Organize, make threads, change your opinions, evolve your opinions, and organize, but I mean, like, and come together, try to be constructive with that, right? And also be understanding towards a company like Nexon, and specifically the GMS department, because they can't just snap their fingers and get everything done, right? They are in a connection with Nexon Korea, and they have their own limitations as well. And this is a team of people that I still believe wants to do the best they can do to deliver a good product for us, but they also have their constraints. So if they can specifically say, like, hey, all of our player base just wants these 3 things, those are the main things they want, and then everything else is like not priority, then they can clearly say to Nexon Korea, like, we need these 3 things, like, we need these fixed, and if we have these, then you won't hear from us for like another 2 months. So just give us these 3 things, and then we can make everyone here happy, and you guys can keep doing your own thing, and then bam, that can get streamlined, and that whole process that can get a much quicker, right? So help Nexon help you, basically. Or don't, and then just fuck off and go play another game. Don't stay in the subreddit and be like, oh my god, I'm so happy I quit this game 9 years ago. Why are you still in the subreddit shitting on Nexon and shitting on Maple every day if you haven't played it for 9 years? Please move on. Like, nobody needs you here. Just, you have so much better things to do. Just please go be productive somewhere, all right? Yeah, we probably stayed around for too long, but hey, that's our time, that's our right, okay? Don't tell us how to spend our time, but I'm going to tell you how to spend your time, okay? Don't waste your time on negativity, all right? Be constructive, be productive, move forward, or move on, right? Move along. Because life's too short, and don't spend it hating, all right? So, as a call to action for all of you guys, just pick like a top 3, all right, of things that are most important for you, and then support causes that you see around you that try to improve those 3 things, all right? And just start there, and then cluster your power as a player base, and then we'll see what happens, okay? All right, that's been my my memo roundup. Hopefully you guys can agree and disagree with a bunch of stuff, and I look forward to reading your reactions and your comments.